Okay, so last week where we left off, we were talking about, or Monday where we left off, we were talking about how the development is coming along. Um, as of today, we've started working on the sample provisioner. We've got new developer Sajan helping out with that, and development as of right now is going at a good cadence, and it's moving forward. I would say. We're still on track to do the demo in a few weeks. Again, the way I was defining the demo was as a development milestone. That is, I want to have high quality code, not prototype level code, and have it with testing in place, and do the demo as the endpoint of finishing a certain number of tasks. So the demo is going to include the simplest use case of creating a greenfield bucket, creating a bucket access for that greenfield bucket, and then giving that bucket to a pod by through the node adapter. So this demo covers all three components of this system. Moving forward, we have some good news. So my talk for KubeCon 2020 was accepted. We're going to be talking about Cozy, and yeah, it's going to be exciting. And we will definitely get more visibility, probably more contributors after this talk. I think that'll be good. Um, so the talk we originally submitted was with John Cope and I. I don't know if everyone here knows John Cope, but he was leading this group before I came along. And when we both were here at one point, we decided to submit this. I'm not sure if John is going to speak at this talk this time. However, if John cannot make it, Jeff, who has taken over John's position, will help us out with that. So it'll be me and Jeff, if not me and John, or John and I. Going to the next thing. So the deadline for KEP merging is coming up. It's very, very soon. So I want to spend a majority of the time today going over anything left in the KEP that needs to be fixed. We got a bunch of feedback this morning from Andrew. Thank you so much, Andrew. And I would like to go through them and answer the questions that are there, or figure out if there's anything we don't know that we need to answer in a different way. So I'm going to open up the email. So Andrew, I haven't had a chance to go through this. It came in like, what, 7 minutes ago.
I know. Sorry about that.
It's okay. So are these mostly like are there any technical issues, or most of them seem to be about just the wording, or what is that?
Several are wording related. Probably the biggest. I have two sort of general questions that are technical questions, and they're not necessarily, I think you got it wrong, comments. They're more like, I don't quite understand.
Okay.
The first is around anonymous access mode.
Uh-huh.
The driver, the KEP says basically, oh yeah, this basically doesn't have any effect. In which case, I don't know if that statement means that really, or yeah. So that's what I was kind of trying to get at there.
Okay. So let me open that up.
And I can quote you the actual note.
Okay. Yeah, please.
Find it.
Oh, that's right. This one, right?
Yeah, note does not reflect or alter the backing storage ACLs or IAM policies.
Right.
Yeah, I was on mute, Andrew. This is a carryover. I think it's John's. John wrote it, and I'm not sure I fully understood how it was used. And I sort of, as I was refreshing the KEP, didn't really focus much on there. My understanding was if you don't have a more formal policy, this is a way to say what's the access for generally open buckets for anonymous access, non-user, non-specific user type access policies. What do we want as a catch-all policy? But I'm not sure if my interpretation is correct.
Yeah, I just don't understand how this would be. I mean, I could understand if this actually should be reflected in setting public read-only access to the bucket, but that line below it says, "Oh no, we're not going to do that." So I'm just confused. That's all. Because it's just declaration. I'm not really sure I understand why it's there.
Okay. Yeah, one answer to this is, yeah, maybe it shouldn't even be there. But I think we're trying to say that generally in object storage, there's I think 4 different ways of setting access or doing access management, and ACLs, IAM, and there is this catch-all bucket level policy, which is anonymous access, which does not follow the IAM way or the ACL way, or I think there's another way to do it. STS, I think, token service. I think that's what we're trying to say. Technically, it doesn't use ACLs or IAM policies to achieve this.
Okay, so I think it's just the way the note is worded then.
Yeah, so the note to me, Andrew, reads, if you're using anonymous access, if you set that in the bucket class, it does not impact any of the underlying object stores policy.
Well, see, that's what I thought it meant too, but that's not what Sid just said.
Isn't Sid? I mean,
what he said is it would implement the underlying access policy. It would change it. It just wouldn't be ACLs or IAM. It would be, hey, general public read to write.
Sorry, Jeff, I didn't hear what you said. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, I guess I see the source of confusion. I'm saying that if a bucket class defines an anonymous access, and so it's reflected in the bucket instance object, which is what we're looking at here, the cozy itself isn't going to make any kind of driver call. So what the gRPC will pass in this private, public, or public settings, the 3 public settings or a private, right? We'll pass that down to the driver.
So you're saying we won't be creating a bucket access thing for it. That's what you're saying. We would have to pass this along during the create bucket call, right?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, maybe I didn't understand you fully. Can you explain?
Wait a minute. Now you just mentioned bucket access. This isn't going to do anything with bucket access.
Right.
No, we're just looking at anonymous access is in the bucket class. So we're talking greenfield buckets only. And it's copied into the bucket instance, right? So that's the field we're talking about. And Andrew's looking at our definition, and the definition doesn't have the note in bucket class like it does for the bucket instance. If you go to the bucket instance and you look at anonymous access description, number 6, you'll see a note after it says, does not reflect or alter the backing storage ACLs or IAM policies.
What was the explanation for it?
Well, I think John was trying to say we aren't going to, that he doesn't expect that a driver would alter any underlying ACLs or IAMs if you're using anonymous access, which seems like a reasonable thing, but we don't have any control over what the driver does.
No, no. Yeah, I don't think that statement is correct. So that's like saying if anonymous access mode is set, then we don't do anything with ACLs or IAM policies, correct? That is, we just want to do, isn't that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that in the in absence of more restrictive policies, we would expect the anonymous access to be followed.
Right, but following anonymous access, I mean, there's two parts to this. One is, imagine this is applying to Greenfield. How do you implement that, right? That's the first problem. The second problem, which is what Sid just kind of mentioned, which is, okay, what are the implications on bucket access when you've got anonymous? Because you don't need any kind of credentialing if anonymous access is available.
Right.
And so it almost strikes me that this ought to be moved, this whole concept ought to be moved into bucket access if we're going to do it, and figure out how to fold that in there as an alternative protection mechanism.
I think
and I think it should be, I mean, you could say, like, have a mode that says we're not going to touch anything, but then I don't think there's a lot of value in saying we're not going to touch anything, but trust us, it's public. So,
like, what do you mean by we're not going to touch anything? Do you mean like, so are you saying how this interacts with the bucket access itself?
Right. Right. Presumably, if it's anonymous access, that means it does not require any kind of credentialing, either the identity mapping or downloaded credentials, right?
Yeah.
So fine, that's okay. I don't argue with that as a potentially desirable thing. My question is, how do you model that? Because in that case, what's the purpose of a bucket access request, right? So you got to figure out, what do we put in a bucket access request if we're just relying on the fact that something is already public?
So yeah, I mean, there's still reasons to have credentialed access, like for rate limiting, say. If you want to go over the default rate limits, you want to be an authenticated user.
I'm sorry, Sid, I didn't mean there's no point in having credentialed access. I meant in a world, in a scenario where the workload wants to access something anonymously, right? So how do we say that? I don't think it makes sense to put that particular access question on the base bucket itself. It seems like that really ought to be an option that can be put in the bucket access request. Whether that option is honored or not is a kind of a different question, right?
I think what you're saying makes sense in terms of the workflow. It doesn't model what the clouds do today, though. The anonymous access itself is a policy that's for the entire bucket, and
yes,
the layer of abstraction is the bucket where this is set. A bucket access cannot, you can have multiple different bucket accesses that actually. Yeah.
So I take your point. So let's look at it this way. So fine, we want to make this private. Basically means don't do anything in this case, right? The three different publics would reasonably be expected to then, at the time that you are provisioning this bucket, to set these public access modes. And yeah, your point being is this isn't specific per user, so it shouldn't be on bucket access. That's fine. I get that. But then what do you do for bucket access when you want to access a bucket that is a public bucket? In other words, there has to be an option that says, I'm going to be accessing this bucket, give me the endpoint for it, but don't try to give me any credentials and don't try to set up any kind of workload identity mapping or anything like that, because I just know that I'm going to be able to access it anonymously.
Yeah, what you're saying is that it seems like we need to expose this concept of anonymous access in the BAC as well.
Well,
Right. I think it's a kind of a class type for access.
Yeah. And further, I think that based on what that I heard is that setting this public read only, public write only, public read write does have an impact on the back end. It is expected to implement that on the back end. So this note here is a little misleading. It isn't misleading because, yeah, it doesn't impact ACLs or IAM policies, but it does impact the back end.
Yes.
Right. So I think what we can do is to move forward. I think we should definitely take this note out. I don't think it clarifies anything, and it definitely adds
The
complication.
note can be removed. You're right, because it doesn't. It just confuses.
I think
At a higher level, we still want this concept of anonymous access.
Yeah, I'm going into that. So, so about that, I think modeling anonymous access is something which might need I'm not sure if we need a longer discussion, but I think it's worth having it. I think this is so earlier we talked about how we were sure there were going to be some changes that will come into the KEP even after the KEP goes through. This is the first thing we'll have to address, and I think this anonymous access is with the current workflow, it'll still work, except you will go through the credentialed way of doing things. However, in order to really model anonymous access, I think we can have that discussion after the KEP deadline, after we go through with the KEP process. I am not sure it adds too much value at this point to try and change things with this right now.
Well, I would say, I don't know if this is the point you're trying to make, but I don't feel like removing anonymous access mode at this point is a deal breaker. And doing it to remove some of the ambiguity and then adding it later wouldn't be a horrible thing.
I think so. I don't think there's much ambiguity. Maybe I'm getting it wrong, but if the worst case scenario is there's going to be an anonymous access mode, and credentials are always going to trump that, regardless of what the anonymous access mode is.
But what's the point in being able to provision an anonymous bucket if you can't access it anonymously?
So one of them could be you have a like a website. The workloads that have credentials write to it, but the public can read from it. Anyone can go to the website, see its contents. So the workload.
Okay, you're saying this: I'm provisioning a bucket for public access, but none of the workloads in Kubernetes will actually be accessing it, because the primary reason for public buckets is to back websites. All right, that's fine. Right.
Yeah. So to move forward, let's remove this note, and I think we can have a longer discussion about this in the future. Right after the KEP gets reviewed and hopefully merged. Let's go to the next comment. Oh, so we want to do Browfield? What?
Oh yeah, that was there's some small typos and things.
Yeah. That's a good catch. I think GCS calls it GS. Okay, got it. We should fix that.
And then we're using Azure Blob, and I don't know if there's a URL format for Azure Blob storage, but is the protocol Azure Blob in that? Like in the case of GCS, the protocol is GS:, just like S3:. So I'm wondering if there isn't an AB: or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, Krish, do you think you could check that up if you're on the call?
Krish, I'm not sure Krish is on the meeting. He had a conflict during the first half of this meeting.
Okay, no worries. We'll look into it for Azure. Storage APIs, bucket request, bucket instance name. We want to make sure there's a discussion of the binding logic for brownfield cases.
Right, I can mention that because that is my other one of my other question areas.
Mm-hmm.
So let me up level just one thing. As I was reading the KEP,
Mm-hmm.
I was very much trying to put myself in the position of an app developer, trying to decide which of these fields to use. And I would say, as a meta comment, it is not always obvious why I would use a particular field, whether it was optional or not, and what I should supply to get what behavior. And I know this is an authorship issue, it's less of a technical issue, but it's difficult to fully reason about things when it's not super clear what the intent is.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I feel like I'm not even sure the KEP itself has consistency of intent. The language is a little bit different in an access versus, you know, or the namespace versus non-namespace, or et cetera. But as far as this particular comment, though, I think that the answer is we can control namespace level access
Mm-hmm.
to from the bucket side. And so it is sufficient in the bucket request side to just name the bucket, and then as long as your namespace is allowed, you're the one that gets to bind the bucket. As opposed to forcing the bucket to have a back reference in order to make the binding happen. So I think I got that right, and I'm okay with that. So we can move past that one.
Okay. So to address the consistency issue, basically, so we have a lot of contributors who've been working on this over a long time. I would say it's getting more and more consistent from where it was before. And, you know, this is how it goes when lots of people are working on it with very different backgrounds and, you know, different experiences. It starts out this way, but eventually it will become very clear in terms of the language and how the KEP itself is worded.
Sure. This isn't intended as a backward-looking statement. This is just a forward-looking statement. Like, it would be good to read this with an eye to be very clear about what the intent of the fields are and indication to the user for why they would use fields or not.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I think you know, we'll definitely have to write good documentation, which is a part of our milestone, and also the API review process is going to get into all of this. So I think we're set up to go through this at higher detail and you know, get it right.
So my last substantive comment then, comment/question, has to do with a confusion in the bucket access request over basically how you support the various scenarios. The various scenarios being workload identity, a driverless kind of thing, which says, hey, I got everything defined here. You don't need to invoke a driver at all. And the third being, I want you to actually go mint what you need to mint on the server and give me credentials back. So the case where you provide the, sorry, I have to look at the actual KEP here. When you provide the service account name, I think that feels fairly clear. The problem that I have is with the access secret name, because I don't know what that's supposed to be. You say this field is used by whom? The user supplies it because this is a bucket access request, but what should the value be in this? Right? If I'm wanting you to mint a secret and return it to me, is this the name of the secret I expect you to populate? But if that's the case, I thought we were providing the secret in the form of the ephemeral volume. So why do we need a secret? So I'm just confused about how one uses this field in the case where I'm wanting the driver to mint the secret.
So, I think this would be for static brownfield. Jeff, could you answer this question? Or
Yeah, that's,
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm on mute now.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yes, I'm reading the description. I think that I agree that this is a case where I already have access to the backend store, and I'm putting my access tokens in a secret in my own namespace, and I'm supplying that secret. Although, why do I need to do that? Because my workload can just consume the secret through environment variables. It's my own secret, or through as a file mount, either way. So I'm not sure.
Sorry. So you're
It's
not.
further confusing by the fact that it implies that you have to specify either a service account or a secret name. I think maybe the two are mutually exclusive, but you don't necessarily have to provide one or the other. And that wasn't clear in the language.
Right, that's the right answer. So I think this has been left over from the previous.
I think, yeah.
So yeah, so this is good. This is how it gets removed. Yeah, I think we should remove this field because we added the minted secret name here, which is what holds the actual secret. And in a static brownfield case, the admin would create the bucket access with the secret provided here, not here.
That would clean it up to me.
Yeah. So this access secret name is remnant of the previous discussions and design. I think that should be removed. I'm glad you found that.
That was it.
That was it. Okay, great. Okay.
Can I ask a follow-up thing?
Yeah.
That.
Sorry. Wait, Andrew. Were you finishing?
I would say other than the nits, but the nits are we've already kind of talked about most of it.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Guy.
Hey, so I just want to make sure, do we still have any way of like completing the automation in an environment variable consumption by the workload versus a volume, or is it always going to be a volume in this case?
I think volumes can be projected as environment variables.
All right, so that's how it would be connected.
It's possible.
For other cases. Yeah, so the workload can define to take a volume and create environment from it. Is that?
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah.
But from Cozy point of view, Guy, we are just going to write to the volume for the endpoint information and the credential tokens, and the app will have to consume those. Whether it can use projected volume, I don't know. That concept exists, but I don't know if that works for CSI driver volumes or not.
No, Node adapter will not do it. Node adapter will just write the file. Yeah, but projected volume should be able to put that as environment variables into the environment.
And about the actual format of what it gets to the volume, is that something that can be changed per the protocol or per the provisioner, or is that okay?
Yeah, it's set by the provisioner, the provisioner sets it, creates a secret from it that then later on gets mounted through the CSI into the pod.
And Guy, the driver documentation will have to describe the format, right? Because I'm assuming the driver.
No, the driver will generate the secret for us.
Well, yeah, the sidecar does that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I'm wondering what is the translation between the secret and the volume? I think if that's specified, I didn't see, but maybe I missed it.
No, we translation between secret and volume. No, we don't make any changes to it. We shouldn't make any changes to it.
So it becomes just files, flat file names that can be mounted to wherever the workload decides?
Yeah, it's a single file that gets mounted into wherever the workload decides. Yeah, desires.
Does it get saved into a secret object as well?
Yes.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm. All right. So
it's a secret in the provisioner's namespace. We have a secret, and our our CSI node adapter, also called a CSI driver, reads that secret and writes it to the volume in the pod CSI volume section, right?
are you asking or are you telling Jeff?
I'm saying that's my understanding of how it works, because I wanted to make sure that we aren't, Cozy isn't creating or copying a secret into the user namespace.
It's not.
And I wanted just to make, because one of these earlier iterations, we were doing that, Saad, and we're not doing that.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay, moving forward. So how much time do we have? Okay. So we'll carry out the changes right away, actually. And it seems like most of the, or all of the changes so far are not major, and we can do them quickly. And I want to acknowledge that the next thing we'll talk about, possibly starting next week, is modeling anonymous access a little bit more clearly, and how it kind of works alongside the current IAM style access or bucket access that we're doing. The next step is, after the KEP gets reviewed and merged, would be API review. So about the API review, so I just want to find out what that process looks like, and what would we need to do in order to get that started. Just as a question, just as trying to figure out what to expect as the next step. So can someone, Saad or Shing or anyone who knows about this, help me understand that?
Yeah, so my understanding is that you apply a label on the KEP saying that you're ready for API review, and I'm not sure if it's you manually or somebody who's going to do the API review adds you to a API review project board, and one of the API reviewers will get assigned to review your KEP.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's basically like a code review. And they'll go in and place comments and questions as they have about the API and give their sign off on it.
Got it. Okay. Okay, that's great. And so who adds the label to the KEP?
One of us can do that, Shing or I probably.
Okay, got it.
Once you're ready, just let us know and we can do that.
All right, sounds good. Okay, yeah, I think I'm a little clearer now. Yeah, when after we get it merged with the provisional status, and after we finish the modeling of anonymous access and anything else that comes up, I think we can start the API review right after that.
Makes sense.
Yeah, Shing had a comment related to API review, or someone did, that the expectation is that we're showing them Go structures, not YAML, or both, maybe.
Yeah, you can keep both. I think some people will be asking for the YAML as well, but normally the API reviewers look at the API, the way you write your API, basically.
Right. So we need to just take structures, copy and paste structures from the code that is being written right now and paste that into the KEP for the API reviewers to see.
No, I think we'll just point them to the code.
No, it has to be in the doc. They're not going to go.
I see.
Doc. Yeah.
I see. Okay, got it. All right. All right. So that's all I've got for today. If there does anyone have any other questions? Great. Okay. So let's. So we can end the meeting now. We'll carry out the changes very quickly, and yeah, please do a final review, Jing, Saad, and everyone else here, and give us feedback, and we'll be able to respond to that also right away.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Right.
Thanks, everyone.